My name is James, and this is the story of how a single spark turned into a fire that almost consumed my life. It started with just one cigarette. Just one. But that one turned into many. And before I knew it, the habit had its claws deep inside me. I never thought that something as small as a cigarette could shape my days, my thoughts, and even my health. It started so casually. One evening, one offer, one puff. I told myself it was nothing, just a try. But the truth is, once the smoke enters your lungs, it also starts to cloud your mind. What began as a choice soon became a routine, and that routine slowly became a prison. Looking back now, I wonder why I didn't see the danger earlier. Maybe I didn't want to. Maybe I thought I was stronger than the habit. But the habit of smoking has a quiet way of proving you wrong. I remember the day it started like it was yesterday. I was 17, standing outside a small cafe with a group of friends after school. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. One of my friends pulled out a pack of cigarettes. He looked so calm, so confident as he lit it. The smoke curled around his face, making him look older, almost mysterious. "Want one?" he asked, holding the pack toward me. At first, I hesitated. In my heart, I knew it wasn't right. I'd always promised myself I'd never smoke. But in that moment, the fear of looking weak in front of my friends was stronger than my promise to myself. So I took it. My hands were slightly shaking, but I tried to hide it. I lit the cigarette, took a shallow puff, and coughed so hard everyone laughed. I laughed too, trying to act like it was no big deal. Deep inside, though, something felt wrong. But then something unexpected happened. The second puff wasn't as bad. The third was even easier. I felt a strange warmth in my chest, a rush of calm mixed with excitement. My worries about school, about my future, seemed to fade for a moment. My friends nodded at me with approval. That small gesture, that silent welcome to the club, made me feel accepted. In my head, I told myself it was only this once. I can stop any time, I thought. And that idea that I was in control made it feel safe. It felt like smoking was just something I could pick up and drop whenever I wanted. But what I didn't see then was how easily that just once could turn into tomorrow, and then the next day, and then the next. Back then, the habit didn't look like a trap. It looked like freedom. It looked like fun. But every cigarette added an invisible thread, and before I even noticed, those threads became chains. When habit becomes addiction, the invisible chains. At first, I thought I was in control. That's what I kept telling myself, even when the truth was quietly becoming something very different. One cigarette turned into two a day. Two became five. Then it became part of my daily routine, almost like brushing my teeth or tying my shoes. Every morning before leaving for college, I'd step outside my small balcony, light up, and watch the street slowly wake up. The smoke curled around my fingers and floated away, and in those moments, it felt like nothing else mattered. The stress of exams, family worries, and the pressure to fit in all seemed to fade with every breath of smoke. Soon, I found myself needing a cigarette after meals too, then during breaks between classes, then whenever I felt nervous, sad, or even happy. Smoking slowly wrapped itself around every part of my day until it became hard to imagine doing anything without it. I didn't even notice it happening. It was that quiet, that gentle, and that dangerous. One day, during a long lecture, I realized something that made my heart sink. I wasn't even listening to the teacher. All I could think about was my next smoke. My leg kept shaking under the table, my mind restless and distracted. When the bell finally rang, I rushed outside, lit a cigarette, and only then felt a wave of relief wash over me. That's when I understood. It wasn't me choosing to smoke anymore. It was my body and mind demanding it. I started to notice other signs too. My mornings began with coughing fits that left me breathless. Climbing stairs felt harder than it should for someone my age. My clothes smelled of smoke no matter how many times I washed them. Sometimes I caught my reflection in shop windows, cigarette in hand, lips dry, eyes tired, and I barely recognized myself. The worst part wasn't what others could see, but what was happening inside me. I couldn't go more than an hour or two without thinking about smoking. The thought lived in the back of my mind like a shadow that never went away. Even when I was with friends laughing and talking, part of me was counting down to my next cigarette break. My parents began to notice. My mother would wrinkle her nose when I hugged her, trying not to say anything, but her eyes showed worry. My father asked me directly once, "How long have you been smoking, James?" I lied, saying it was just sometimes, nothing serious. But deep down, I knew it was serious. There were moments when I tried to stop. I told myself I'd quit after this pack. But when the last cigarette was gone, panic set in. My hands felt empty, my chest tight, and my thoughts messy and sharp like broken glass. I'd end up going to the shop late at night, buying another pack, telling myself it was the last time. But it never was. Even my friendships changed. The friends I hung out with most were the ones who smoked too. We shared cigarettes, talked between puffs, and bonded over the habit. But outside that circle, I felt embarrassed. I hated the smell on my breath and clothes. I hated the looks I got from people who didn't smoke. Sometimes, in moments of honesty, I hated myself for not being stronger. Looking back, I see now that the habit had become more than just something I did. It had become part of who I was. And that's what addiction really is. It's when something you choose turns into something that chooses you. When your thoughts, actions, and even your feelings start to circle around that one thing until you feel like you can't live without it. I still remember the morning I woke up, coughed so hard my chest burned, and stared at the half-empty pack on my nightstand. I felt tired. Not just physically, but tired of being controlled by this small stick of tobacco and paper. But even then, as I picked it up and lit it, the habit felt stronger than my will. That's when I realized the truth. The real prison wasn't outside me. It was inside. And breaking free wouldn't be as simple as just deciding to stop. It would take something deeper. Something stronger than the chains I had wrapped around myself. Realizing the cost and the struggle to quit. There comes a moment when even the thickest smoke clears, and you see the damage you've done. Not just to your body, but to your life. For me, that moment didn't happen all at once. It came in small, painful realizations, each one adding weight to my regret. One morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The street outside was still quiet. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my pack of cigarettes on the nightstand. My chest felt heavy, and my breath was short even before I lit one. As I coughed into my hand, I saw a tiny spot of blood. It was faint, but it felt like an alarm bell ringing louder than anything else. I wish I could say that was the day I quit, but it wasn't. The fear I felt was real, but so was the pull of the habit. I smoked that morning anyway, telling myself it was just stress. But the image of that blood stayed in my mind. In the days that followed, I began to see the cost more clearly. My health was worse than I had let myself admit. Every staircase felt longer. I was always tired, my skin dull, my teeth stained. My breath smelled of smoke no matter how many times I brushed. But even worse than what I saw in the mirror was what I felt inside. Shame. I thought about my family. My mother, who always hugged me quickly now, her smile a little forced. My father, who stopped asking about smoking because he knew the truth but couldn't force me to stop. And my younger sister, who once looked up to me for everything, but now looked away when I lit a cigarette. The habit I thought made me look grown up had done the opposite. It made me smaller, weaker, trapped. I began to hate how I planned my day around smoking breaks, how I'd step out during family dinners, missing conversations, missing laughter, just to stand alone in the cold with a cigarette. I also noticed how much money I was spending. It wasn't just the cost of cigarettes. It was doctor visits for constant coughs, throat infections, and medicine I wouldn't have needed if I didn't smoke. When I added it all up, the numbers shocked me. All that money burned into smoke. Then came the hardest part, trying to quit. The first time, I decided suddenly. I crushed the half-empty pack and threw it away. I felt proud of myself, like I had finally won. But within hours, the cravings came. They weren't just physical. My mind felt restless, my hands empty, my mood dark. Small things made me angry. I snapped at people I loved. I couldn't concentrate on anything. On the third day, I gave in. I bought another pack, telling myself it was just to calm my nerves. The first puff felt like relief, but it quickly turned into guilt. I had failed. Again. I tried many times after that. Sometimes I lasted a few days, sometimes just hours. Each failure made me feel weaker. People around me offered advice. Chew gum, drink water, distract yourself. I tried all of it. Sometimes it helped, sometimes it didn't. But the biggest battle wasn't with my hands or mouth, it was in my mind. There were moments when I stood outside a shop, staring at cigarettes behind the counter, arguing with myself. You don't need it, I'd think. Just one, the other voice would answer, and sometimes that other voice won. One evening, after another failed attempt, I sat alone in my room, looking at the half-burned cigarette in my ashtray. I felt empty. The smoke rose slowly, fading into nothing, just like my hope. That night I cried. I hadn't cried in years, but I cried out of frustration, guilt, and fear. But somewhere in those tears, something changed. I realized quitting wasn't just about stopping smoking. It was about becoming someone I could respect again, someone my family could be proud of, someone who didn't hide behind smoke when life got hard. The next morning, I reached out for help. I told my parents the truth, that I wanted to quit but couldn't do it alone. Their reaction wasn't anger, it was relief. My mother hugged me tighter than she had in years. My father simply said, "We're with you, James." I talked to a doctor who explained why it was so hard, how nicotine changes your brain, how quitting isn't about willpower alone. He suggested ways to help, slowly reducing, using nicotine patches, and most importantly, finding new ways to cope with stress. I replaced smoking breaks with walks. When cravings hit, I took deep breaths, drank water, or called a friend instead. It wasn't easy. Some days, the cravings felt like storms, but each day without smoking felt like a small victory. Weeks turned into months. My cough slowly faded. My breath returned. My clothes smelled fresh. My mind felt clearer. The cravings didn't disappear completely, but they became weaker. And with each craving I resisted, my strength grew. Looking back now, I see the true cost of smoking wasn't just money or health. It was time, moments with loved ones, and pieces of myself I lost to addiction. But the struggle to quit also showed me something important, that even when you feel weakest, you can still choose to fight. And sometimes that choice, made again and again, day after day, is what saves you.
In the end, the habit that nearly destroyed me also taught me who I could become if I dared to break free.